Welcome to Cousin Sal's winning weekend, and oh, what a big weekend it is. Invitations are going out for the biggest dance of the year. Not the enchantment under the sea. You're off the hook, McFly. The NCAA tournament, and coming up, we're getting ready for Selection Sunday and our big trip to Vegas next week with sportscasting legend Kenny Mayne. He's going to be there, and in a few minutes, we're going to talk to him about his picks next week, both in the tournament and in the buffet line. They are both equally important to me. And later on, the D3 joined me to talk about all the big moves so far in NFL free agency. You could already wager on those: Darnold, Metcalf, Devontae Adams, Marcus Mariota. All right, maybe not Mariota, but there are a bunch, and we'll tell you our favorites. But before any of that, it's time for a segment that tests my reflexes and reactions. It involves our producer, babyface Joel Solomon, throwing a crumpled up piece of paper with a thought written on it. I'll catch it, I'll read it, and I'll tell you my thoughts on the issue. We call this Tossing Topics. All right, fire away, babyface. What do you got for me? Good one. Selection Sunday. All right, listen, Selection Sunday is one of the most celebrated sports Sundays of the year outside of football that anyone could bet on, besides Easter, which I famously lose money wagering on how many Easter eggs kids will load into their basket. Don't judge me. Every family has their traditions. But what's more troubling is in the weeks building up to Selection Sunday, my insane OCD forces me to outline the field of 68 in a notebook. Seriously, look at this. Whoa. Yeah, I know. It all comes across as a sociopathic ransom note, but I promise it's just my dumb thoughts on the who's in and who's out. And even though you could get all of this information online, I figured we have a ton of colored pencils in the house that are never used, so why waste them? Now, my beautiful artwork aside, I still think Selection Sunday could be better if we raise the stakes. No, not for the teams involved, for the experts. Take bracketologist Joe Lenardi. God bless him. He got 67 out of 68 right. I, for one, think that sucks. He should be perfect, and players from the team who he left out should be able to shoot him with a paintball gun. Now his bubble is busted. And if Selection Sunday analyst Clark Kellogg picks against UConn, I want to see Coach Hurley right there in studio screaming obscenities at him. And here's one more. The 69th team, the last team out, has to sleep with the 68th team's mascot. Yeah, I'm going to keep this dumb joke going until it happens. Something about 7-foot men laying next to oversized stuffed animals tickles me. Anyway, NCAA, you want an A+ in bracketology? It would behoove you to take note of my suggestions. Toss me another one, babyface. What do we got? NFL free agency. All right, the NFL wasted no time on Monday morning with all sorts of deals, even though we knew 90% of the signings over the weekend. It's kind of like finding out who won Best Actress on your drive over to the Oscars and then having a fake excitement when they all call your name. But there were still some surprises once the dust settled. Take Daniel Jones, for instance. He got signed by the Colts, but not until late Tuesday, which is like getting picked last in kickball, except before the game, someone hands you $14 million. And Kenny Pickett got traded to Cleveland for Dorian Thompson-Robinson, a hilarious deal, similar to trading an iPhone 3 for a Casio watch. Oh, and Sam Darnold to Seattle was a fun one. The last time I saw Sam Darnold was Super Bowl week on the flight back to LA from New Orleans. He was in an aisle seat 3 rows from the toilet, and now he's making $100 million taking snaps for the Seahawks. I know he's definitely splurging for internet on the next flight. All this talk to avoid talking about my Cowboys, who, of course, did nothing in free agency. Oh, whoa. Never mind. We did bring back our kick returner and our punter. Selective aggression almost guarantees us 6 wins this year. Thanks again, Jerry. All right, toss me another one. This is NBA Media Wars. Okay, the NBA is filled with so many great rivalries. Unfortunately, none of them involve 2 teams, only sports media. We used to get Magic's Lakers versus Bird Celtics, Isaiah versus Jordan. Now it's Stephen A versus LeBron or Kendrick Perkins versus Charles Barkley. It's lame, but in a way it's good because unlike a Clippers-Lakers game that's going to run you $1,000, this one's for free on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. But why the hell is this even a thing? Why are we discussing media arguments instead of actual games? Listen to how Kendrick Perkins responds to Charles Barkley, who simply pointed out that ESPN talks about the Lakers too much. Hey, NBA on TNT, might want to tell that senior citizen Charles Barkley that I'll be around. When he see an idiot or fool in person, make sure he keep that same energy. He can come playing with me if he want to and I'ma address his ass like the numbers on a house. Yeah, I know. Listen, the only one who should really be upset about this is Perk's high school English teacher. It's wild. All of a sudden, there's battle over which Kendrick produces the more effective diss track, Lamar or Perkins. Pure insanity. Even JJ Redick was like, you know what? I'd rather travel 6 months out of the year babysitting Bronny than blame specific players for ruining the All-Star game. Instead of Kevin Durant taking big shots for the Suns, he's taking big shots at Skip Bayless. Stephen A. Smith is getting confronted by LeBron for going after his kid, and Larry David's there to see the whole thing. It's just pretty nuts. No wonder Nikola Jokic can't wait to get back to milking horses on his farm. The season is definitely too long. Not for the players, for the analysts. The networks need to load manage these guys. Vocal cords are getting strained. 60-year-old ex-players are getting threatened. Stephen A. is suffering from fake rage fatigue. And I'll say this. I wasn't psyched for Stephen A. Smith running for president, but if it gets him to stop screaming at me about not being able to have sex after a Tim Tebow playoff win, I say get him in the Oval Office sooner rather than later. And let's make Hot Take America great again. All right, that does it for tossing topics. Now it's time for my irrationally angry attempt to make rational sense of a somewhat irrational bet. It's Wager Rager. All right, baseball season is fast approaching. The other day, I got a bird's eye view of the national pastime when we took my son's travel baseball team to Peoria, Arizona to catch a freezing cold and wet spring training game. Not a ton of spring. And the only training was of my patience as I got frostbite while watching a group of 11-year-olds give each other wedgies for 3 hours. But anyway, it has not been a great preseason for the New York Yankees. It was announced earlier this week that ace Garrett Cole was going to be out for the 2025 season. And it's a shame, too, because now that the team ban on facial hair was lifted, Garrett had a sweet mustache he was hoping to introduce. This in addition to the announcements that starter Luis Gil is out for 3 months and bopper Giancarlo Stanton's elbows are falling off. The Bronx Bombers need a Bronx embalmer at this point. And listen, I get that they're not looking good or healthy coming in, but as a Mets fan with many a-hole Yankee fan friends, I hate this team. And aside from betting against Elon Musk to get run over by a Tesla, this is my favorite emotional hedge bet going. Over 88.5 wins for the Yankees. You know it's going to work out for them. It always does, at least in the regular season before the wheels fall off. The Yankees eclipsed 89 wins in 6 of the last 7 seasons. 88.5 is a low number. If I win, great. And if I lose, at least I'll still have this masterpiece to enjoy. That is one great-looking Met. All right, that does it for Wager Rager. Time for a break. When we come back, we've got a former running rebel running his mouth, Kenny Mayne, and the D3's got some hot hoops picks coming our way. All next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Let's bring in our guest. He's a legendary sportscaster / wiffle ball player. He made a movie about one of those things. But most importantly, this man will be joining me next Thursday and Friday for a March Madness watch party at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club in Las Vegas. Former running reb who often has the runs. I'm sorry, Kenny Mayne. Thanks for being here.
I'm calling it a residency. So I'm telling people I have a Las Vegas residency at the Kimmel Comedy Club. It just sounds cooler. I don't quite have our hotel locked up, but I'm sure we'll be somewhere. I mean, I'll take downtown Binions. I don't care. Let's go.
You're the only one with a residency who doesn't have a confirmation code yet for his room. I like that. I wonder if Mariah Carey goes through the same thing. Yeah. I want to talk basketball and wiffle ball and if there's time, pickleball. But let's start with my favorite and yours. Let's face it, football, and specifically your Seattle Seahawks. Now, they hired this Mike McDonald last year, right? Not the Run Sweet Freedom guy. It's a different guy altogether. And they have a fine season. And then they get rid of Geno Smith and DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. And they signed Sam Darnold. This is not the deal Mike McDonald signed up for. Is it the deal that you signed up for?
Elon Musk came in and fired everyone, and they're going to get some loyalists. They need some loyalists to fill.
Okay.
I mean, it's their program. I usually trust the people. John Schneider, GM, he's been pretty good through the years. My understanding on Gino, who I thought did great for us, they offered him this and he wanted that, and they were able to get Darnold for this, right? He basically got the money they wanted Gino to stay around for. I don't think they were trying to lose him. I think it just kind of worked out that way where he wanted a little bigger deal. DK, he asked out and they obliged. I mean, he had some really big games for us. He was solid. He's a great athlete. Like, I think he'll go on and do well. And Tyler, who I met when he was a rookie, such a good kid. And I still think of him as a little kid. He's like a little guy that made great plays. I hope they bring him back on a lesser deal. I really haven't followed what's going on since. Hopefully he hasn't signed elsewhere. You can inform me if that's true. He gave us great years of service, but I think they looked at it. It's a tough business. His hit was whatever, 15, 17 million. And at this in his career, they might be able to get a younger kid for way less than that who might do as well or better.
Well, I think they looked at him like you do as a little kid, and they say, hey, I'm not giving a little kid $15 million. That's ridiculous.
Speaking of, we did a bit like that with Muggsy Bogues at Caesars, where I said, I hated how people treated you like you were just some little kid where you were a good player. And we turn around and he's jumping up and down on the bed. That was the joke there. But yeah, I believe in John Schneider's wisdom. He's mostly made good deals. This is a big overhaul. I won't disagree. But Darnold had a really good year with Minnesota, had a couple fall-off games, but I'll take Sam Darnold. I think he'll be okay.
We're big betting guys. Let's admit it. What's the over-under wins total we put for Seattle? 8, right? Smack in the middle. Well, it used to be smack in the middle. Now there's 17 games. I feel like they're an 8, a solid 8 right now.
9.5.
Oh, stop it.
9.5. Yeah.
No.
They're playing 20 games this year. They're going to.
Oh, is that right? All right. If we count the preseason, I guess 9.5 is fair. All right. Back to Vegas. You played, you enrolled in the college UNLV, right? And not just played football, but you played quarterback, which is one of the best positions. It really is. Could you have been a 2-sport star at UNLV? Did you play hoops?
Did you say cornerback or quarterback?
Quarter. The QB. Yeah. You were QB too, right?
I was. Sadly, I wanted to play more. I wrecked my ankle my junior year. I came back to play my senior year. The kid who played ahead of me, Sam King, led the nation in passing yards. We beat BYU at BYU that year. So we had some players, Jimmy Sandusky, All-America receiver, Michael Morton, running back, Ray Krause. We had a bunch of people. What was the question? No. Could I have played both? No, not a chance. I was just an absolute bricklayer in basketball. I could pass defense. I could hustle, towel waving guy, but don't look at me to fill it up. I'm not Steph Curry. It's not happening, but I can throw a football and I still can. That's why I have this football with me in case I'm called upon to throw it.
I love that you carry one right there for interviews. It's really, it's a sign of a great champion, really. Now, you were a few years back to that basketball team, a few years before the great running Reb squad, right? With Larry Johnson and Stacey Augmon, Greg Anthony.
It's funny. I came right after a really good run. That was the Reggie Theus group, right? And I think 56. I was 79 redshirt, 80, 81. And then, they got really good toward the end of that decade. Tark did a great job for us. That team was ridiculous. That was a really, really fun period of basketball, whether you're a Rebels fan or any college basketball fan. That just the way they played, the enthusiasm. We had Gerald Patio firing from, long range. We had Anderson Hunt and Greg Anthony and Grandma. They had a team.
Is that the one, aside from the ones you played on, is that the college team that you rooted for most in your life, would you say? Or was it the one?
Funny. I grew up south of Seattle, and so we were Washington Husky fans. Then my sister started dating the quarterback at Washington State, so we took our allegiance over there. But when they broke up, I moved back to Washington. Then when I played football, obviously my first loyalty is to UNLV. I'm a huge Washington fan otherwise. And, I root for the West Coast. Once your teams fall off, I take the next best and pull them on. I'm not a guy who hates on your rivals. If, I don't want them to, some people don't want them to do well. Like it hurts you. It's like, no, they're in our division. Same thing. NFL. If one of the other teams is better than Seattle that year, you kind of root for your division to I
don't like that.
Represent you.
I don't like that at all. No, you have to. I mean, you're Eagles fan. I'm going to root for the Eagles as a Cowboys fan. I mean, come on, you have to. No.
West Coast is a different vibe. I rooted for the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and I won American dollars.
Gross. That's terrible. Back to your sister dating a Washington State. Your sister dated Ryan Leaf. I don't know. This is news. I bet. I don't think anyone knew this.
Long ago, Ty Payne. This is a long time ago, early 70s. Jim Sweeney was the coach.
Do you have a favorite NCAA tournament memory or bet that you won, maybe?
Well, one year I selected all 8 winners in the Sweet 16. This is 5-6 years ago.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the bet got done a little bit late, so we were 7 of 7. This is all for fun, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah, this is just entertainment. But when you get that hot, and I think that's what will encourage these people who are going to come to our amazing show at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club, that's the fun in it. Pick like 3 games or 4 or 5, and that's where you really make it. Instead of just one team giving 2.5. What's the fun in that? You gotta spread out, play 5 or 6 different parlays. If any one of them hits, you're going to have a great day. Maybe you play a 3 and a 4 and a 5 and try to get all the way there. But if you don't hit the home run, maybe you get the 3 or the 4. But I think that's what's fun in any sport, but the tournament in particular.
And we're going to give away prizes in the form of tickets, maybe like, and maybe if you answer a tough trivia question, you get Auburn to win the title. We'll buy that for you. If you flop, you'll get like High Point at 160,000 to 1 or something. I don't even know if they're in there. Let's talk real quick with Duke. Now, I don't know if you paid attention. Cooper Flagg was injured in their game against Wake Forest. The Duke odds, they were favored to win at plus 340. Shot up to 7-1. Now the number's all over the place. Should we just bet Duke at 7-1? These things seem to always work out for them.
That's a pretty good number. I mean, sometimes the good teams have other good players. Have we ever followed that?
That's true.
Also, we're watching White Lotus right now, and there's a Duke.
Carolina, Duke.
So I mean, that might influence my bet. I'm going to bet on an individual kid. Gambling's legal now, right? Like. We know a kid on the Yale team. Whatever his number is, I'm betting over. I'm not going to tell people this one because we don't want to pollute the poor kid. He's only 17 or 18. But
you don't want to say his name. You don't want to.
Yeah, at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club. When
I see. Okay,
why we're advertising this. How many people do you think we'll have there?
How many people do we want there? I don't know. I don't want it to be too crazy.
5,000.
Oh, really? 5,000. Yeah. Okay.
And how many does it hold?
It holds like 5 or 6. No. We can get 100 down there, I think. It'll be a little crowded.
It's not in the comedy area. It will be funny, but it's not it has to be funny. It's no stage. It's the room. It's that outer room before.
Yes. It's in the tragedy area. Yeah, that's where it is. That's what we're going to be doing.
If very few people show, we'll just sit at the bar with them. We'll just sit.
That's true.
Yeah.
Tell us about the Wiffle Ball doc. I know it's been out for a minute.
It's an important American film. I would classify it as a comedy doc. That's a woodpecker. Let's pause for that, like NPR.
Oh.
Wait.
Okay.
That's pretty good, right?
I guess I didn't hear anything, but maybe I think you're just hearing things at this point.
Not hear that. That was a American woodpecker.
Really?
So I made a short film. It's on Fubo Sports. It's about a day with Ken Griffey where we threw wiffle balls together. And then I go back and I find the tape and I tell the real story. Ken Burns is in it. That's all you need to know. And then, as you know, I made up 20 odd minutes of jokes. At least I thought they were funny. And I performed this whole thing at Jimmy's Club early February. So I came out, did sort of a stand-up show. Then we showed the movie. Then we did Q&A. So it was like, stand-up meets film festival. And I'm doing one again in New York City at the Pit in late April. And it's my new career. That's what I'm doing.
I love it. Maybe there'll be a lull. Oh, now I hear it. Now I do hear the woodpecker. I always try to go, like, if a dog is barking, I'll bet the underdog of whatever game is about to tip. But a woodpecker, I have no idea where that figures into the line. I'll have to see if there's there's
got to be some teams with bird references, avian. Yeah. We'll find somebody.
That's pretty cool. I think maybe we could have a wiffle ball contest too. I know the space isn't tremendous, but maybe we have like a, you know how like in Japan, they have those bunting contests. And if you get it in the circle, you get, I don't know, we could think up some stuff. We have some money to give away. It'll be good.
Or we could play the wiffle ball movie on a loop and the people who hate basketball can just sit and watch that. We'll bring extra entertainment.
That's true. That's true.
If I brought these dice to Vegas, would they let me throw them? Like just bring your own dice to the table?
You love craps, and I love that about you because I get stuck with people just adore blackjack, and they'll get their teeth kicked in for hours and hours, and they won't leave the table. I, like you, enjoy craps. Tell everyone why it's better.
Well, one, you're actively participating when it's your turn to throw, or your friend is throwing, or your girlfriend, whoever it is. And so you physically have a play in the game. What other game are you touching anything other than opening the cards that they just...
you're burning calories. You're literally it's healthier. RFK Jr. Says it's good. Yeah.
I personally like to be right of the stick person and have a backspin where they pop back off the wall. I also like to shoot from the end and do jump shots. I will do like Steph Curry jump shots and just throw them way up in the air. And they always say, sir, please keep the dice lower. And then that's when you throw it even higher. But you want a friendly table. You put the dealers up on a bet, make them be on your side, have fun. I hate the tables where they appear to want you to lose. Like say you're betting the 11s and 12s and you don't bet at one time, then it comes in and they look at you like, should have bet the 12.
Yeah. They have to be experts.
You can bet afterward. Is that how we're doing it?
Right.
Here?
Yeah. I'll get that, we'll get that kind of snarkiness at TSA, but not when we're at the tables, right? Yeah.
I'd say we go downtown, Golden Nugget, 4 a.m. We're hardwares are working on the come out and we parlay and we win money. We don't even show up to our show. We just don't show up. And it's just,
I'm fine with that. And I can imagine a lot of people are going to take that same tact and not show up to our show, but do it anyway. March 20th, 21st, next Thursday, Friday, Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club from 4 to 10. It's me, it's Kenny Mayne, it's Tate Frazier. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have a good time, right?
Most fun ever. I'll be there.
And you might give away your cherished golf clubs too. So that'll be a good, nice little addition.
Stolen, and the criminals stole most of my golf clubs. This happened about 9-10 months ago. And there's video of them using my golf clubs to break into gas stations. So one day I'm going to get Andy North. We'll make something funny out of this eventually. Andy North analyzing the swing of the criminals as they tried to break into a mobile or something.
I love it. Kenny, thanks so much for joining us. You're the best. Don't get eaten by a woodpecker. Be very careful out there.
I look forward to our engagement. Send me a hotel confirmed soon.
You got it. We'll be right back with the D3 on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. To Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Let's keep things moving and bring in our next guest. The only time they've ever seen Cinderella is in the NCAA tournament, although one of them, Harry, does sell vintage glass slippers as a side hustle. They're my wizards of wagering, my gurus of gambling, my barons of betting, my overlords of the odds. From the Against All Odds podcast, the D3, Harry, Brother Brian, Darren, the Parlay Kid. What's happening, fellas?
What's going on, Sal?
What's up, Sal?
What's going on, buddy?
Exciting time of year. Harry's, of course, sick, which is very exciting for us. But also, the brackets are about to be filled out. Selection Sunday goes down this weekend. I love it. It's almost perfect. But, I do think it could use some improvement. I talked about it earlier in the show. Just like in Hollywood, when even the best get Botox injections or hair replacement. I had suggestions. I thought maybe the 68th team that's left out of Lunardi's bracket gets to shoot him with a paintball gun. Maybe the 69th team has to sleep with the 68 team's mascot. I love the mascot sleeping idea. My question to you, you know what? I'll take it to you, Harry. How would you make Selection Sunday better?
Well, look, they always show about 7 teams, right? Whether they get in or not. Well, first off, we don't need to see Houston. We don't need to see Gonzaga, who's made it 26 years in a row, to show them celebrating, because obviously we know they're going to get in. But also, like I said, they show like 7 schools, and it's on like a 7-second delay. And those teams always get in for the most part. Yeah. So it's like we know the outcome already. Well, plus we've already seen it. And then you got to go to the school, and it's a 7-second delay. It would be great to, hey, listen, have it simultaneously. If possible, when that team is waiting, you see the reaction when it actually really happens. Some of them don't make it.
We can't even run the Super Bowl without a 40-second delay. You think they're going to figure out the care about the March Madness?
I mean, it's the same thing every year.
But how do you do it though? How do you show the team? Like, when do they know they're not in for sure? It would have to be when they show the last 11 seed or something like that.
Sure, something like that. But it's still their reaction.
I know.
Of it not getting in. Let's see that.
I know. I do. I do like that. I just don't know how they would figure it. I don't know that they're doing anything with the delay. All right, that's all right, Harry. B- I give you.
All right, I'll take it. I'll take that anytime.
Before the brackets are even out, there's some great bets being offered on FanDuel. In the beginning of the year, guys, we picked Alabama, UConn, Creighton, and Kansas to make the Final Four, and only Bry's Bama pick at 11-1 looks strong out of these. We also made final. That was to win, I think. We also made Final Four picks. Parlay Kid, you had St. John's to go to the Final Four, looking good. Without looking at the bracket, because we don't have one yet, who provides the best Final Four value now, Parlay Kid?
Well, so that's a great question. Let's go Johnny's here in New York. But I'm going to roll with Clemson right now, Sal, at 15-1 to reach the Final Four. 26-5 on the year, 18-2 within a pretty solid conference. I know it's not the best. It hasn't been the best this year, but maybe has the best team in it. And Duke, who Clemson has beaten this year, only one loss since January 11th. The metrics say they're very solid. on both sides of the ball. Maybe not spectacular in any one area, but solid all around. Their 5 leading scorers all shoot 35%, which is the magic number, or more or better from the three-point stripe. They shoot close to 38% as a team from three-point land. A very solid team here. They've been in some tough battles. 18-2 in the conference, a win over Duke, a big win over Kentucky early when they were ranked 4th in the country. Let's take Clemson at 15-1, solid value.
All right, there you go. Bry, Duke was mentioned there by your brother, the Parlay Kid.
I'm going to go with an even longer shot here. I'm going to take UConn at 24-1, right? A disappointing season for UConn this year, especially with Danny Hurley and UConn, what they did the last 2 years. But when you look at the tournament, right, the last year's absolutely dominant, right? Not one game was close in the last 2 years, which was phenomenal. But this year, they're going to be around a 7 seed. And they play. The one thing I'll say is, look, they played well their last 4 leading up to the conference tournament. But I still feel like we have yet to see the best of McNeely, the freshman shooter on their team. If Caravan Ball can shoot the 3 ball well, and Hurley is not going to make this an easy out for any team, right? So they're going to have to upset probably 3 teams in this tournament to get to the Final Four. But when it comes to value, we've seen even before Hurley, right? UConn's won this thing 6 times. They've come out of nowhere a couple of times here. So when you're giving me 24-1 for them to reach the Final Four, I'll take that with Hurley any day, Sal.
You could take my 6-1 ticket to reach the Final Four, which I made before the season, if you want that.
No,
Seems
thank
like
you.
an even enough
No,
trade.
thank you.
What difference? Oh, jeez. Terrible odds. All right, I'll give mine, then I'll go to Harry. I got Maryland plus 850. I was talking about them the other day as a possible ACC winner early in the week. Their first game tips in a couple hours. By the way, my Final Four team was Purdue plus 950, now 16-1. I already lost value on that. But Lenardi has Maryland as a strong 4 seed. I think they could grab a 3 maybe. Let me see. Let me look at my pattern. Yes, I think they can grab a 3. Yeah, there it is. So if they get a 3, they match up well with who would be 2 seeds. Tennessee, Michigan State, who they lost to by 3, and Texas Tech. Those would be the 2 seeds before going against the 1. The Terps are hot. They've won 13 of the last 16 going into the tournament here, and all 3 of those losses came on buzzer beaters against Michigan State, Ohio State, and Northwestern. Coach Kevin Willard, not super deep team, but amongst the best starting 5 in the nation, led by Jacoby Gillespie and Derek Queen, to name a few. Terps plus 850, Final Four. Harry, Gonzaga, I think you had Auburn initially. Good job by you making the Final Four at plus 420. Now they're minus 140. But for value right now, you like the Zags.
I do. It's 7-1. Look, don't sleep on the Zags here. They just stifled St. Mary's, holding them to just 51 points in the West Coast Conference Tourney Final. They're running hot, winners of 9 of the last 10 games. I'm rolling with senior Graham Ike, who averaged 8 boards and has scored 15 points or more in 5 of the last 6 games. And you just can't underestimate the Zags. Mark Few, one of the best coaches in college basketball, is a legend in Washington. The Zags at 7-1. Sal, Final Four.
All right, let's switch over to football. You guys like football, right? What an open to free agency it was. All sorts of big names and some tiny ones moving to new places. Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, Devontae Adams. These guys are moving around more than Harry during a Springsteen summer tour. But how about you guys each pick a prop you like from some of those players that changed teams? Let's start with you, Brother Bry. Devontae Adams, player near and dear to your heart. The Raiders, former Raider, former everything at this point. What do you like with Devontae?
Well, it's funny. It feels like Devontae hasn't played for the Raiders in like 3 years. It was only a couple months ago. But I'm going to take the under 925.5 receiving yards for Adams now that he's with the Rams here. But look, I will say he's gone over this number in 7 straight seasons. But I really don't love when these older receivers, when they switch teams later in their careers. Adams is entering his 12th season next year. He's going to be 33 years old during the season. Now you're going to have Nakua, right, with Kupp gone too. He's going to be taking over as the lead guy. He'll put up monster numbers. You still have Atwell, who's a young receiver there, who's going to take on a bigger role. They got nothing from tight end production last year, so I think the tight end will produce a little bit more here. So look, I think you're going to see some moments where Adams looks like his old self, but he's got to stay healthy. Stafford has to stay healthy. A lot has to go right, I think, for him. And again, I just don't love receivers switching teams later in their career. So I'm going to go with Adams under 925.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, we talked about that last week or early in the week. Parlay Kid pointed it out too. It doesn't really work with free agent receivers going to another team typically. I do think this number's not bad though. I love betting unders in these things, but Cooper Kupp had over 712 games. So that's the role he's going to fill, I feel like, and he should be able to corral all those receptions. He's durable. He's played 14 or more games in 9 of the last 11 years. So there's that. He doesn't usually get injured, but this is what you're banking on, an injury here or just average production. So I don't know. I feel like McVay and Stafford fit him in nicely. I think that number is just on there. Parlay Kid, give us one. You got Sammy Darnold going to Seattle.
Yeah, someone near and dear to Harry's heart, Sammy Darnold going to Seattle. We're going to take him over 20.5 touchdown passes on the season. Sammy, look, 35 for the Vikings, albeit this, obviously that Vikings offense better than the Seattle's offense with Jefferson and Addison. But Seattle still has Smith and Jigba, who's coming off a 100-catch season and has now emerged as a true number 1 receiver in this offense. And new offensive coordinator going over there, Clint Kubiak, who is of the Saints. Now you might say, oh, he's got the Saints offensive coordinator. Not a great hire. This is a good hire. When the Saints were healthy early in the season, they were firing on all cylinders. Kubiak is a really good schemer, has great game plans. He's going to really help Darnold. I don't see Darnold regressing here this much, even with Seattle in offense. It's not as good. I think as long as, again, a lot of this comes down to health, he plays 15-plus games. He's going over 20.5 touchdown passes, Sal.
All right, let me see what my pad says about Sam Darnold. Yellow, but a little orange. Yeah, listen, listen. That's how you analyze it, right? He had 35 with the Vikings, not the same team. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson. On the other hand, you look at his career. He had 12 in seasons. He had 12 games or more. He never eclipsed 20. I know it was with the Panthers and Jets. They moved on from Lockett and Metcalf. They have JSN, and Jake Bobo was their second receiver. I think they signed Scantling, although, yesterday. So it's getting a little better. I'm sure they'll pick someone up in the draft, but I don't know. I think this is a fine number because he never did it before last year. So we're going to see what he does. He might be, Harry, just taking the over just to get your goat.
Scantling, yeehaw.
Hey, if anyone can make him great, it's Sam Darnold.
Is it?
You already apologized for his efforts this past year.
You've already seen him sleep too long on planes, so I don't know.
There you go. All right. You want to make a pick?
I will. Let's go DK Metcalf, under 925.5 receiving yards at -114. Now, Metcalf definitely, look, he needs a new start and is out of Seattle, but that still does not mean things will be pleasant in Pittsburgh. Only 66 receptions the last 2 seasons each year. The quarterback situation still up in the air in Pittsburgh, and George Pickens led the Steelers in receiving yards with only 900 yards this past season, and 2 of the last 3 seasons, Pittsburgh's leading receiver has had 900 yards or less. I'm going Metcalf under 925.
All right. Yeah, and as of the time of this recording, we don't know who's taking snaps for the Steelers, but I don't think it really matters. I kind of like the under here, too. I don't know if it matters if it's Russ or Rodgers or Skylar Thompson, who's actually still on the Steelers roster. It's going to be a literal battle for grabs between Metcalf and George Pickens. And don't forget, Freiermuth, second on the team with 78 targets. He should command the same, so I don't mind that under right there. Listen, guys, it's time for a break. The D3 is going to stick around. We've got lots more with them, including a visit from the Make-Believe Riverboat captain. He's got a good question for us about sports media feuds, and we'll look at some odds to make or miss the NBA playoffs, all next on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Welcome back to Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Still here with the D3, Harry, Darren, Brother Bry. If you're looking for a feud with an athlete, there is no better time to join sports media. Stephen A. getting hunted down by LeBron courtside. Durant, Skip Bayless, who's no longer really in sports media, but it still counts. It goes on. And with all this verbal sparring going on over the past few weeks, the Make-Believe Riverboat captain wanted to know what was the all-time best feud involving a member of the sports media. Is it Kevin Durant and Skip Bayless, 2-1 odds. Is it Jim Rome and Jim Everett? That was a good one, 10-1 odds. Floyd Mayweather and Larry Merchant, 20-1 odds. Or Cousin Sal and Ryan Leaf, 75-1 odds. How did that one end? He apologized, right? I can't remember. That it? He came on and I don't know what it was. All right. Or you can go the field for even. Did I mention that? Yes, I did. Take it away, Harry. What do you like in this? I know you have some strong opinions.
I'm going to go Jim Rome and Jim Everett South. By the way, Jim Everett, 62 years old now. I'm going to date back 31 years ago when he was on Jim Rome's show, and he was trying to make a name for himself at the time on ESPN and on ESPN2. And he had Jim Everett on as a guest and started calling him Chrissy Everett in the middle of the interview. And Jim Everett took it to heart, didn't like it because he's a pro NFL quarterback. You're not going to call me Chrissy, like saying he's like Chris Everett from tennis, and saying that he's soft and all this, and then he just he threatened him, and then Rome kept pushing him, and Everett just got up out of his chair and knocked him down. And if he would have pounded him if he would have pummeled Rome if he wanted to.
Whoa.
He didn't do it, but still to this day, Jim Everett doesn't regret it at all.
Yes, Jim doesn't, and I think Jim Rome doesn't regret it. It was a great moment in cable history, sports cable history, it was for sure. And that had been building up. He had called him Chris Everett on the radio and everything else, and then had him on the show, and he's like, say it one more time, I dare you. And he did. So that was a good one. That was a lot of fun. All right, Bri, take it away. Which one you going with?
Yeah, well, look, the Cousin Sal Ryan Leaf one, very, very underrated, very funny and unexpected, I will say. But
I saw him at Radio Row a few months after, and I went up to him like, "Hey, what's going on, Ryan? What's happening?" And he's like, "Hey, man, how you doing?" He had no idea. That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was exactly. So that's what makes it even funnier.
He texted me about a month ago, by the way.
He texted you?
Yeah.
He didn't text you.
And direct messaged me on Twitter.
All right, that's different from texting.
No, I know, but I didn't ask him.
I don't even want to know.
Harry's best friends with him. Jeez, oh my God. But look, Sal, I'm gonna go with the Floyd Mayweather and Larry Merchant feud. You know, I was a big, huge boxer fan, especially back in the day. And Merchant just used to always complain about Mayweather, right? His fighting style, the boring fights. And after that fight with Victor Ortiz, it got very funny. Very quickly when Mayweather just got pissed off, said HBO should fire you. Larry Merchant rebutted that if he was 50 years younger, he'd kick his ass. But, and when you, and look, and again, that just took a lot of guts. Usually it's the other way around, right? It's the athlete kind of going after the reporter. You don't really see the sports media guy going after the athlete like that. And it's the funny thing is it's so hysterical to think about. Like, you could put 100 or 200 Larry Merchants out there to fight Floyd, and they would get their ass kicked here.
That's maybe the Riverboat captain will pose that question next week. How many Larry Merchants does it take to be there?
Well, yeah. And look, it just reminds me, right, when Harry brags about, he says he can beat all these NBA players in 3-point competitions. That's kind of like Larry Merchant think he can beat up Floyd here. So great altercation. And like I said, I just don't remember somebody going after an athlete, especially when you're interviewing him up close after a fight. That takes a lot of guts.
There is some ballsy, like Jim Gray's pretty ballsy in the ring there after these guys, Cosell probably started it, but he kind of had a friendship with Ali, so he never pushed it. We were never probably nervous. I was a little before my time in Parlay Kids anyway, and Harry. But Merchant that was really funny. Merchant is 94 years old now, still kicking, and he's fighting Jake Paul in September. They just announced that. That's interesting. All right, Parlay Kid, you're taking the field here.
Going to take the field, and those guys are the anti-Harrys, right? Harry will talk a good game behind all their backs, but if Harry's ever face-to-face to any of these guys, no way would he ever say anything to them, and I call BS on that Ryan.
No, he does say something. He kisses their ass. I mean, we've seen it with Harbaugh.
Opposite. In no way Ryan Leaf DM'd him. He's got to show us the proof there. That did not happen.
Okay.
Now, I'm taking.
I think he meant BM, not DM. I'm not sure. Go ahead. Yeah.
I'm going to take something. This past December was the 40-year anniversary at MSG, December 28th, 1984. John Stossel behind the scenes. John Stossel behind the scenes, trying to get a story about like what is real in wrestling and what's fake in professional wrestling. And how dare he go up to Dr. Dave Schultz. And Schultz, if you remember, he asked him something about it being fake or real. Wrestling's fake, isn't it? And slaps him on the ear with his right hand, staggers Stossel to the ground. Stossel gets up, staggers up, slaps him with his left hand. He goes down. And so I remember like that was yesterday. And that was right in the heyday of our wrestling fandom, right? Like right around 1984 was those days were great. And maybe Stossel deserved it, Sal. I mean, I guess he felt the pain there, but I remember that. What a feud that was. Stossel won $450,000 in a lawsuit, by the way.
That was great. Yeah, I know they had to settle, but I feel like, well, I mean, the real story is you never, ever find out the real story. Yeah. But maybe Dr. D. David Schultz maintains that he was put up to it. Here's this guy snooping around for a story saying our profession is fake. You know, they wanted somebody to make an example of him, and then Schultz hits him. Schultz later became a bounty hunter. That's how he made his living. And by the way, he had to because WWE fired him. WWF at the time fired him like 2 months after that altercation. So yeah, Stossel lost permanent hearing. I hope it was worth it. Lost permanent hearing in his ear. I love that one. I love Todd Furman versus Arkansas coach Eric Musselman. Locking in. Todd Furman went after Arkansas. Musselman went after Furman, and then I bought Furman a cameo from Musselman to happy birthday to Todd. So that was good. Bill Simmons making fun of Keith Olbermann and his cats, and Olbermann retaliating. That was a good one. That was sports media on sports media. But I'm going to go up with field minus Tim McCarver and Deion Sanders, legendary broadcasters in the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. Tim McCarver, pretty good baseball player, the same. Now he's in sports media. He's doing the games for CBS. He criticized Deion for playing with the Falcons and Braves on the same day, which is insane to think about. 92 playoffs. Braves won the NLCS. And during the post-game celebration, McCarver sent down there to interview the players. And Deion douses him with a bucket full of ice water. And McCarver was upset. He's like, "You're a real man, Deion. You're a real." That seemed like yesterday too. Yes. So legend has it, the two never made up. So that's it. That was one of the few that got physical, along with Harry's Jim Rome and Jim Everett. All right. I think we did good. We hit on college hoops, the NFL. So let's end on the NBA. There's about a month left in the season. So let's look at best value for teams to make or miss the playoffs. There's still some odds for teams to make or miss the playoffs, mainly in the East and mainly in the Southeast Division, to be specific. Deion never played basketball for Atlanta, but if he did, I guess he'd be a Hawk, and they're a minus 235 to make the playoffs. I'm going to say no at plus 198. Now, this is interesting, this 7 through 10 slog that we're in with these Southeast teams. I don't know why this isn't regarded as the worst division in sports, Bri, right? I mean, if the Heat aren't great, this is pretty bad year after year, right? The Hawks, I think, are like 3 games under 500, and they're poised to make the playoffs as almost 2.5-1 favorite. Ridiculous. So I basically need Orlando to win this division. They're about a game and a half back. They're plus 270 to win the division, but there are a bunch of other ways. If I take plus 198 for Atlanta, they don't make it as a 7 seed. They go into that 7-10 melee and they lose. Orlando split with them. They still have 2 more with Orlando, including one down there, the last game of the season. They could end up playing that in their first game in the 7-8 battle. So I like Banchero and Franz Wagner to improve down the stretch. And I think Atlanta gets knocked out. I like them at plus 198. Harry, you're saying, oh no, Parlay Kid, you're going against me here. You're saying Magic, no.
Yeah, I think between me, you, and Harry, one of us is certainly not hitting this one. But I'm going to take Magic plus 140 on the no here, Sal. Look, we know Magic got off to a really good start. So any type of record they have is due to their fast start. Banchero got hurt. The team went south. Now, even since he's come back, they still haven't been that good. They have 10 wins since January 1st, Sal. Just in this month alone, back-to-back losses at home to the Toronto Raptors, followed by a loss to the Chicago Bulls at home, 3 straight. This team is not a serious playoff contender at this point. Mo Wagner's out. Jalen Suggs is out for the year. They've been bad. Look, they have plenty of excuses here, Sal. They have battled the injury bug all year. I think this is just not the time for them. They can't overcome these injuries. It's too late. Take them to not make the playoffs plus 140.
All right, I'm looking at because you're right. Harry has the Heat to not make the playoffs. Harry, I'll get into that in a second. But I wonder, we're all picking on the Southeast. I wonder if you bet all three to not make the playoffs and you can collect on two. I got to figure out this math. I don't know if it's on my pen. No, that's gone. All right, Harry, go ahead. Tell us why the Heat aren't making it.
Yeah, at plus 126, I got no on the Heat. I feel with no Jimmy Buckets anymore. Both Atlanta and Orlando are better than Miami. Since Butler left, they're 8-15 overall, just 1-5 in their last 6. Not enough scoring on this team. 5 straight games they've scored under 110 points. Trae Young can still push the Hawks to a playoff berth. And yeah, Darren, you are correct. Orlando, a lot of injuries this season, but they're young, still talented, and I think overall down the stretch here, they're going to be better than the Heat.
All right, Bri, you were taking the biggest swing here with the Bulls, who I believe right now are the 10th seed, right? So they'd have to win a couple of games if they stayed at 10, but plus 590 is your number.
Yeah, plus 590. And look, if you guys don't like the Heat, Magic, Hawks to make the playoffs, that leaves the Bulls as making the playoffs at plus 590. So they're locked into a playing game pretty much at this point. But they're a few games back of the 8th and 9th spot. But they have played really well recently, right? They beat the Magic, Heat, and Pacers all in a row here. Now you add Vucevic and Williams, who are coming back. They're playing for them off the bench while they get healthy. They have minutes restrictions. But I think they certainly could sneak in. And the only disadvantage is they're going to have to win 2 road games likely here to make it. But I'll take them at plus 590, so.
All right, fellas. Good job by yous. Don't forget, next week, Thursday and Friday, I will be in Las Vegas at the Jimmy Kimmel Comedy Club from 4 to 10 p.m. And if he somehow passes a physical, Harry will be there also. The great Kenny Mayne will be there, as well as Tate Frazier. He's great, too. It's going to be a terrific time. We're going to be watching the opening round of the tournament, handing out prizes. There will be a trivia contest. We're going to do some race to 10s. And if you plan on being in Vegas, definitely swing by. And if you're a bubble team that doesn't make the tournament, you're also invited. Great consolation prize. Looking at you, Tar Heels. Don't forget to enter Cousin Sal's 50K Melee, sponsored by Splash Sports. $50,000 guaranteed prize. NCAA Tournament Eliminator. Go to splashsports.com/Cousin Sal to sign up. Thanks, fellas. Enjoy Selection Sunday. We're going to be right back to close things out on Cousin Sal's Winning Weekend. Time. We did it. My thanks to Kenny Mayne. I'll see him next Thursday and Friday in Vegas, and hopefully some of you all as well. And of course, thanks to the D3, Harry, Darren, and Brother Bry for their insight. Well, most of it anyway. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. And please always remember, you may feel like an underdog, but just know you're all my favorites. Happy handicapping.